So, I want to shout out Aaron Berry. And the reason why is because we had a nice chat. Actually, 2 days worth of talking. We did 3 hours each day, which means it was 6 hours. And in my opinion, in those 6 hours, I think we covered more than a scientist or any spiritual guru could have covered in like a universal like lifetime, to be honest with you. But we went a lot into deep provoking topics. And one of the things that I was sitting down and contemplating, which is why I said shout out Aaron Berry, because, you know, just basically listening to our conversation, this topic came up of consciousness. And it's one thing that I'm told that scientists have a hard time understanding and being able to explain and whatnot. And consciousness can be explained. Okay? It's something that you have or something that you are. Like you are consciousness. Right? How could you not know how to explain it if you are consciousness? See, a lot of people say that for you to know, you know, your world or whatnot, or you have to go within. And what does that even mean, right? It's basically when they say going within, you're basically, meditation is the key, because you go into the, you know, the realms of yourself and you're basically blocking out the world and whatnot. But, you know, a lot of the times, even that, a lot of people have a hard time really understanding or grasping what's even happening in that space. Not to say that you're doing it wrong. You're never doing anything wrong. But there's times when you're meditating, you know, and you see people, places, and things still. You're still part in the mental realm. Because when you go deep enough, man, you don't see things for how you see them here. I mean, people don't look like how you would think people look like here. The same way if you see fire, electricity, water, it doesn't matter. You're not going to see it the way it looks here. Even when you think of your reality, it's going to feel like a distant type of memory. And that we're here just basically based on memory. Like my son right now is playing with his kid right now. I love my son to death. But let's say if I had amnesia tomorrow, would I feel like that about my son? I probably won't. The reason I feel like that about him is because of the memory I have with him. It became close to my heart. Here's the thing though. Well, before I do, let me give out a toast. And I went to Tennessee. All right. And I don't know if you can see this, man, but this is Darth Vader. And if this ain't the fucking baddest, coolest fucking cup you've ever seen, I don't know what the fuck is. But this is fucking great. I mean, when I saw this shit, I almost had my dick got hard. I'm gonna tell you right now, this shit was fucking beautiful. And I said, I'm gonna pick this shit up. I've got a collection of cups. And that's red wine, by the way. So cheers to you guys. That's some good fucking red wine, too. And I like it cold iced like that, you know? I don't like anything warm. I was in New York, and that's the city that never sleeps. I was in the middle of a blizzard, and like I said, it's the city that never sleeps. So you know businesses were open. But I stopped at a Dunkin' Donuts, and I got an iced coffee. You know what I'm saying? And I'm drinking iced coffee, and I'm walking the streets of fucking New York in the middle of a blizzard. You know what I'm saying? And some lady's like, aren't you cold? You know? And I'm like, no, I'm not cold. But bitch, now that you mention it, I mean, shit, I just gotta chill. I'm walking there, living a dream, drinking my iced coffee. She said, am I cold? And all of a sudden I got cold. And this is where I'm gonna talk about consciousness, right? But I had to transmute that. I had to put myself back in like Miami and shit. But I wasn't cold until she mentioned it. So as I'm talking to Aaron, right? We were talking about consciousness. And one thing that I see the world for how I am. And this is actually something that even financial gurus talk about. They say you see the world for how you are, not for how it is. And when you have this position, you're never in victim mode, but you can also have a thorough understanding that when you're looking at your outside world through the eyes of this, you know, this body, which is an instrument of the mind, you will start to see that you're already observing what's inside of you. The polarities, the duality, the illusions of separation, you're observing it in real time, and you're not aware that it is all you, right? So we say we have consciousness. I could say, yeah, I'm consciously aware of the air I'm breathing, the environment I'm in, the car I'm in, and whatnot. And I mean, are you self-aware though? Are you self-conscious? Are you self-actualized? Because we can say reality is one way, but in actuality, right? Are you self-actualized to say that in actuality, this is how it is? You know, we discard a lot of people when they have anecdotal claims, right? Meanwhile, we say those are not valid because we depend on scientists to give us scientific studies. But most of the time, these scientific studies are biased, right? So we have to have meta-analysis to basically have an unbiased position and look at things in a meta-analytical way, mainly looking at the studies unbiasedly and look at the bird's eye view of things. Now, we have something over animals called a, we're able to have a metaphysical experience, right? So right now, when we have this experience, in order for you to understand yourself, maybe you have to have a metaphysical experience, right? So if I sit here, I can reflect on life rather than project, but you can actually observe certain people, projecting. But understand this, consciousness, right? You have consciousness, but when you have this Christ consciousness in the position of unity, okay? You basically now, you look at the people outside of you, the people, places, and things, and know that you're observing the inner parts of yourself in action, in real time. These people are conscious because you are basically giving them that consciousness. This is the reason why they say your vibe attracts your tribe. When you want to get into the spirituality guru side of things, they say your vibe attracts your tribe. You emit a frequency. Your vibrational state determines what you attract in your life. All right, but it doesn't matter if you're doing something bad or good. You could be prosperous in any way, which I'll get into in another video, how people say you got to raise your vibration. Sometimes even low vibrations are manifesting shit for you only because you're aligning to it accordingly. And whatever matches to that low vibe, you will get that shit too. Even in a high vibrational state. You got the electromagnetic side of things. But you're giving these people life. You're giving these people outside of you the animation to interact with you. I'm going to give you an example. You have many different characters, right? I act with my mom one way. I may act with my friends another way. I may act with, a job interview another way. I may act with a priest a different way. You have different characters, right? And you use them accordingly only to acclimate to your environment or be conducive to your environment, right? But there's also a way to make sure that if you see, when you get lost in these characters, now you may develop shadow aspects of yourself because just to be too acclimate or to be too agreeable, now what I notice happens is that you start to hide certain parts of yourself in the closet because you say that these people outside of you deem them unacceptable. So you hide them in the closet. But when you're able to express these shadow aspects of yourself in a healthy way, they will be deemed acceptable by society only because you deemed them acceptable first. Right? And there's hidden gifts and talents there. But why are there hidden gifts and talents there? Because that's the true you. And everybody's unique in their way. When we try to be like somebody else, which is what everybody does, we have different characters just based on different things we've picked up from different people. But when it's authentically you, but you can still be conducive to society, your hidden gifts and talents are expressed. People will deem them acceptable, right? But only because you accepted them first. Kind of like people will see you how you see yourself first, right? So the same way, everybody outside of you, you're giving them animation and character. They may talk to you in a certain way only because of the way you're expressing yourself first. In the same way, you may be expressing yourself to them because of the way they're expressing themselves to you, or only the status or position they have in society. Again, you talk to your mom differently than you talk to your friends, right? So when you see things like this, right? Let's say you see the outside world, right? The outside world is you. But there's a way to, instead of you acclimating to the environment acclimates to you. I made a video on this, on the reptilian, and you're observing the reptilian side of you in real time, right? So you see how animals, which are basically mirror and reflections of you, you are basically part of the animal kingdom, but they also said you have dominion over the planet for this reason. See, animals right? They camouflage to their environment to protect themselves from predators, right? You having dominion over the planet is supposed to mold and shape to you, to your will, right? But when you're in your animalistic nature, what you do is you try to be just like these other animals outside of you. And you're not part of these animals. You are the part of the animal kingdom, but you are not like them. These animals are not beings. All they are they're mirror reflections and versions of what you have within you, right? We look at these animals and we say these animals are the embodiment of love, right? And we say that only because animals can't lie to you. They can't backstab you the way a human can, right? But when you see that an animal is loyal to you, it's only because they trust that you're going to give them food. They trust that you're taking care of them. But before all that happens, they have to trust you, right? So notice how in the beginning they have to, I have cats in my garden, and in the beginning they were a little shy, skittish, and then they trust you a little bit, little by little. Now I can call them and they all come to me, right? But let's say the moment I stop feeding them, what do animals do? Animals will just go and find resources somewhere else, right? They'll just go, and because they got to trust in you that you're taking care of them. But if you're not taking care of them, they'll leave. Look at your kids. Your kids, you take care of your children, but they can't take care of themselves. They can't eat without you. They can't, you got to nurture them. You got to give them, shelter. But what happens if you can't do that? They're going to want to run away from home, right? And one would say, well, what about kids? They can't self-sustain themselves. Well, if you're not taking care of them, how they got better chances of self-sustaining themselves by running away, right? So kids are kind of like the same thing. That's why I say kids are like animals. But in actuality, when you have kids, it's a beautiful thing because they're a reflection of the light that you are, right? I'm going to get into this childlike aspect of yourself too. But the animals, right? And by the way, if you don't take care of your kids, even the government could take over that shit. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to give you another example here. Animals. The animals are there. They're loyal to you, right? They form a bond with you. But that bond is formed by trust. It's trust. The key to love is trust. And love is nothing but a building frequency, right? So we observe nature. Nature is a building frequency. That's why we say God is nature. We say God is in all things, because anything that's in growth is God, right? But everything that's in destruction is also God, And this is basically the masculine and feminine energy. I'm going to tell you how I see everything as one. Black and white is basically let's say the polar opposite ends of what we would have in the middle as the color spectrum, right? But black is negative energy. Black is darkness. Black is the void. Black could be feminine energy, which is basically attractive energy, and that's magnetism, right? And negative energy is attractive energy. Then you got white, that's masculine energy, that's a electrical push-outing energy, right? And this is positive energy. But look at how we look at things in the form of bad and good, and how they can still be flipped around, because you see, negative energy, darkness, is nurturing energy, but it's also alkaline energy, where positive energy is more acidic, more destructive type of energy, right? And when you have let's say, for example, you go in the soil, you plant the soles of your feet on the ground, you're getting negative ions, you give out positive ions, right? Black and white. So black being feminine, white being masculine. I can see black people overall, whether they're man or a woman, they're the feminine side of energy. The masculine side of energy is white people, right? And this is why they have these movements, right? Look at women, feminists. They're trying to be equal to men. Could they ever be equal to men, though, right? So we got these movements. But through these movements, the feminine side, they always fighting to be equal to the light or to the men, or black people even, black lives, matter, or let's say, equal right. They have, certain programs even in school for specifically black people. You get what I'm saying? And they're trying to be equal to the black man. You rarely see anything where the white man's being discriminated by the black man. You get what I'm saying? So that means that they're on the feminine side of energy. But why is this? Because it starts, if you look at how the religious order was even structured here in this reality, Christ in man, man over woman, woman over the kids. So when you see this religious order, you can see that the masculine, there's a patriarchal system for that reason. But the key here, and you got good over evil. That's the majority of how you would, say a person would rather polarize to the side of good than bad. But in actuality, is integrating these two things. It's integrating these two things. So when we have consciousness, okay, Christ consciousness is seeing the integration in these two things. So you would go back to being childlike, not childish, right? So a child is born in this reality. They don't know racism. They don't know separation. They don't know anything of that shit that we adults program them to, and then they grow up to be adults as products of what the parents raised them as, right? So one thing about the child is they're open-minded. An adult is closed-minded, and they're more indoctrinated. So it's easy for a child to enter the kingdom of heaven because they're the type that they're in the process of development. So they're making up their mind, right? And an adult has to change their mind if they ever want to enter the kingdom of heaven. But here's the trick though. You never stop being that child. So you know how people say, I have child traumas? See, the whole thing is that you never stop being that child. You still are that child. You just changed your way of doing things. Only because your body changed and, we believe in this aging process, we stopped being childlike. So we became more stiff, more rigid. We also became taking life so serious. So when you see the fear that kids have is instilled by the parents. So the kids are not naturally going to be afraid of like spiders and insects. All that fear comes from the parents. So when you look at it from this perspective now, right? Let's say, for example, you realized that you still are a child. Now you start to go through life and you're able to play the game now, but you're able to play in these waters rather than swimming through them with so much fear and rigidity. You're more fluid, more malleable, open-minded. Look at how we once built pyramids, right? And somehow now we don't know how these pyramids were built. And we have so much lack of knowledge of how they were even built that we use conspiracy theories saying that aliens helped us. Again, putting something outside of ourselves to say, we can't even give ourselves credit. Something outside of us with more technology helped us do it. Your body is the latest piece of technology. You see, we use the internet. I had to talk with Aaron in the UK. That's a beautiful thing. We were expanding. It seems like we're evolving, but we're really de-evolving. Your body, if you're able to connect to a certain part of your nervous system, certain coordinates in the body, you would tap into the frequency of an individual you want to talk to anywhere around the planet. And it would show up in a hologram in real time. We can't do that no more. We were able to build these great structures, these great pyramids with our body. Why can't we do that no more? Right? We stopped being God men. We became human. We depended on technology now. And the further and further we get into the technology, we think we're evolving, but we're really not evolving. We're just really going backwards. We talked about the example of like the kids in Africa, if they're playing hockey with like, sticks and rocks. The moment they come to America and play with real hockey sticks and real pucks and some expensive skates, some expensive equipment, would they experience back in Africa playing with rocks and sticks the same amount of fun as what they experienced already? Now that they experienced some really fucking good equipment, right? So I saw a meme where a kid playing in shit was having the time of his life and the rich kid looked spoiled. And we look at this and say, well, damn, look at the rich kid is such a fucking spoiled brat. We look at that as a bad thing, right? But the whole thing is that the kid playing in shit is probably playing in shit because he doesn't know the greener grass on the other side. You get what I'm saying? And it's a possibility to get there. But we teach a child to play the game and expand as much as possible without limitations. But it's all a mindset and a consciousness. So we block a child from abundant consciousness is no different than blocking a child from Christ consciousness. Because once you have Christ consciousness, it don't matter if you have all the money in the world in the bank. There's still more when you expand yourself beyond the physical. But you think this is the end all be all when you evolve in the physical. That's it. You give everything outside of you consciousness, but your vibe attracts your tribe. So whatever level you're in, whatever space you're in mentally, you're going to attract those type of people. That's your world, right? And how are we shards? Yeah, we're all shards of God because we see that because we recognize we're God, you recognize the God in others as well. But how is it that you could say you are God and still say without, like, because we say we're shards but not God, but no, we are God. I'm going to explain how. If I die, my heart is connected to time. My heart is the projection of this world. Time's up. Once you die, you die. Your heart stops. Time stops. You're under this illusion of time because of your heart. How do you think that if I'm having the best time of my life, my time seems to go faster, your time may seem to go slower? I may be living in the most beautiful heavenly state. You may be living hell on earth. We're still part of the same earth, though. When I die, nothing else exists. Everything dies with me. Everything. So, I'm going to explain in the next video only because this one's about to cut off how we are all God. And it's not just saying shards of God. Because if not, you're just doing the religious loop going outside of yourself, saying that there's a God beyond you. See, we say we have to think about God at all times. Why can't we just be God? Why do I have to think about God? I could just do things as God, right? I'm going to go into the next video and explain this. And cheers to you all. Like if you like, and cheers. We'll talk soon.